Welcome to KetoMealsAndRecipes.com. Today's recipe was a special request by Debbie Burgess, and I'm dedicating this video to you, Debbie. I'm basing this Keto Butter Pecan Ice Cream recipe on a Southern-style brown butter pecan ice cream that I used to enjoy at my favorite ice cream parlor. That is, before I went keto. Although I'm going to make my ice cream using my Breville ice cream maker, I will also explain how to make a no-machine version so that everyone, even those who don't have an ice cream maker, can enjoy this amazing, creamy Haagen Dazs style custard base ice cream. I would like to request that if you can support me, please watch the entire video. Not only is the watch time supporting my channel, but also I provide helpful tips and explanations so that you can get the best flavor out of your pecan custard. And if you like to make your own ice cream and you like this recipe and want some more ideas, please check out the end links where I've posted other ice cream flavors you might like. The macronutrient ratio for this butter pecan ice cream is 8.7 to 1, with 5.5 grams of total carbs, 2.2 grams of dietary fiber, resulting in only 3.3 grams of net carbs per serving. To make it easier to follow, I will explain the process in steps. So in step 1, I begin by first dry roasting the raw pecan halves. All you have to do is put your pan over medium-low heat, heat up the pan, and then place the pecans evenly over the surface. Cook until the pecan halves are starting to become fragrant and the color has changed to a slightly more golden shade. At this point, immediately remove the pecans from the hot pan and transfer them onto a cool dish. And then just separate 1/3 of the pecans, which you will use for flavoring the custard. To the other 2/3, I like to chop them up, first by cutting each pecan half along the seam, and then also chopping up the rest of the portion. I like to do this before I caramelize the pecans. As an optional step, I'm going to candy the pecans. Now, to a skillet, add your butter and your sweetener. I use a monk fruit-based sweetener, which I ground to a confectioner's powder, and cook these over medium heat for a couple minutes to allow enough time for the butter to melt and to caramelize the sweetener. Then add the chopped pecan pieces and continue cooking as you toss for about 2 to 3 minutes, or until you can start smelling that really lovely sweet caramel smell. Turn off your stovetop heat and let the caramelized pecan cool in the pan for a few minutes so that the caramel sweetener can crystallize on the pecan pieces. Once you see that the crystallization has formed, just transfer these caramelized pecan pieces into a cool dish and set that aside. You won't need that until the very end. The next step is to make the custard. For this step, begin by tossing in the dry roasted pecans into your heavy bottom pan, pouring the heavy cream, almond milk, salt. The first thing you do is cook over medium heat, bringing the liquid to a brisk simmer. Once the liquid is simmering vigorously, then turn off the heat, cover the pan with the lid, and let the pecans soak in the hot milk for about 1 to 2 hours. If you can leave it a little bit longer, that'll be even better, because the longer you leave the pecans in the hot milk, the more of the flavor will be absorbed into the milk mixture. When you're ready to do the next step, place a fine wire mesh over a bowl and drain this liquid to capture the pecan pieces. You won't be needing these pecan pieces anymore, so just discard them because all of the flavor has already been absorbed into the milk. And you'll find that the pecan pieces themselves are quite mushy and tasteless. After passing through the sieve, reheat the milk to a light simmer. And while the milk is heating, and in the meanwhile, to a second bowl, add your egg yolks and confectionery sweetener, and then whisk until the egg yolks and sweetener are very pale yellow and the volume has increased. If you're using a hand mixer, it should be about 1 or 2 minutes. By now, the pecan-flavored mixture is at a light simmer and it's ready to begin tempering the egg yolk mixture. So slowly, in a steady stream, drizzle the hot liquid into your egg yolk bowl. It's really important that you continue whisking until you have added all of the liquid into the egg yolk bowl. This will prevent the egg yolks from curdling. And this is the end of the tempering process. So pour everything back into the pot that you used to heat the cream. Place the pot back onto the stovetop, which is set to medium-low heat, and cook this custard mixture until the mixture reaches 170 Fahrenheit or 80 degrees Celsius. Whisk slowly and continuously as the custard is coming up to this temperature, and then turn off the heat. If you don't have a thermometer, all you have to do is dip a spoon into the custard, turn it upside down, run your finger across the back of the spoon, and if the line stays clean and the coating looks thick, your custard is done. And at this point, while your liquid is still very warm, add the sunflower lecithin, which I forgot to do at this step and I added a little bit later. As my custard was cooking, I prepared my ice water bath, put a fresh bowl in it, and placed a fine mesh sieve on top. Now pour your custard through this fine mesh sieve. You'll notice that at the end there will be a few little bits of residue left. I find that there's always a little bit of leftover pieces from the cooked pecans. You don't need this, so just discard everything that's been caught in the sieve. So while my custard is still warm, and before I forget again, I'm going to add the sunflower lecithin. Now that the bowl with the custard is in the ice water bath, it's time to add the vanilla, or as I'm doing here, I prefer to add caramel extract because I like how the caramel enhances the pecan flavor, but that's up to you. And then just whisk to combine. Continue cooling the custard, stirring or whisking every once in a while until you can feel that the custard is quite cool when you dip your finger. If you don't want to keep the custard in the ice water bath, at this point you could cover the custard with cling wrap and transfer it to the refrigerator. Leave it in your refrigerator to cool until the custard reaches 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 5 degrees Celsius. However, if you're like me and you want to continue cooling the custard in the ice water bath, just whisk from time to time. This will prevent a skin from forming, and you want to keep cooling the custard in this way until it reaches 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 5 degrees Celsius. Again, if you don't have a thermometer, dip your baby finger into the custard, and if the custard feels quite cool, then it's probably at the right temperature. Now, as I promised, I'm going to describe how to make a no machine version of this ice cream. By the way, it is exactly the same method I demonstrated in my keto strawberry ice cream video, so check that out and go to the 6-minute and 35-second time spot where the explanation and the demonstration for the no machine method begins, and do that for this ice cream. And for those of you who have an ice cream maker, now I'm going to continue demonstrating how to make the machine method. Remember, if you do have a machine, you do have to follow your manufacturer's instructions and pre-chill the tub according to their instructions. Various machine types will have different instructions, so read them carefully if it's your first time. As I mentioned, I'm using my Breville machine, which has a built-in compressor, but this machine was a Mother's Day gift for my kids, and it's quite pricey. And to be quite truthful, it's a convenience, but you don't need an expensive machine like this. For example, here are two highly rated machines that are quite inexpensive. One starts at about $50 US, but any machine that you like would be fine. Although I occasionally make a no machine ice cream, I just find that there's a lot less work in using an ice cream maker. So if you're an ice cream connoisseur, I'd strongly recommend that you do get an inexpensive and well-rated machine. Okay, now my ice cream base has cooled to the right temperature. The first thing I'm going to do is start my blade churning. You do this with every machine, regardless of manufacturer. And as the blades are churning, and then slowly pour the custard into the ice cream maker tub. When all of it has been poured in, and you've placed the lid on top, if your machine has a hardness setting set to maximum. It should take about 20 to 30 minutes for most machines for this to become ice cream. And then depending on your preference and at what point you'd like to add your caramelized pecans, you can add them just before your ice cream is done while the ice cream is still churning. This will help to combine the pecans throughout the ice cream. One of the fun features of my ice cream maker is it lets me know it's done with this funny tune. You will notice that when your ice cream is done, it's at a soft serve consistency. For the final step, take the tub out of the machine and transfer the ice cream to a freezer-safe container. This is how I do it. I first transfer about half of the ice cream, and then I toss about half of my caramelized pecans on top. Next, I add the rest of the ice cream on top of the pecans and sprinkle with the last bit of the pecans. And then just fold the pecans through the ice cream until they're well distributed. What I like to do as this last step is to cover my ice cream with cling wrap so that it touches the surface and seal it with my airtight lid. Place this container into the freezer for a minimum of 4 hours, but usually I leave it overnight. If your ice cream has frozen because it's been left overnight, just take it out of the freezer, Let it sit on your counter for no more than 10 minutes, and then it's perfect for scooping. Because of the sunflower lecithin, you'll find that the texture is really nice and creamy. The lecithin is a really good emulsifier and prevents crystallization from forming. If you like butter pecan ice cream, I think you will love this recipe. And if you found my video useful, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment in the description below, and share the link with a family or friend. Your word of mouth recommendation is the best kind of support to help me grow my channel. As always, the link for the written recipe, which can be translated to almost any language, is available in the description below. So scroll down and check it out there. Most of all, please come back and check out my next video when it's posted. Until next time, thank you for watching my video. Have a safe and happy day, and all the best to you and your loved ones.